People have asked me over and over and over again if I was going to just work on developing one quality, one personality characteristic, what one could I work on that would give me the most mileage or produce for me the most multiplication or offer me the most leverage. And I have always, every time, suggested being more enthusiastic. And I think it's because the school system that we attended, the school system has been great for us. It's wonderful. We have the greatest school system in the world in the United States. But I think you'll agree with me that they have educated out of us some of the feeling, some of the emotion, some of the enthusiasm. In fact, the more professional you become, the more sophisticated you become, and the higher your education, the less you feel the right to act out whatever you feel. You kind of become more reserved. You withhold it. Would you agree or disagree with this? This is not just a feeling I have, is it? Okay. So I would say the single most powerful quality of a master salesman would be enthusiasm. Okay, enthusiasm. Okay, enthusiasm, then I think you would agree with, if you have it, will help deliver to you anything that you want in life. Would you agree with that? It would be instrumental in helping to deliver to you anything you want. So it would be important then for us to do a little study on it, some thinking on it, some collecting on it. So one of the things you might put down when you get home is to start a file on enthusiasm. And when you see articles in the newspaper, magazines, publications, or you see something in Sports Illustrated, or you see a movie and you see a dramatization of something that typifies for you an enthusiastic person, and you want to adopt those qualities, the way to do it is through behavior modification, and that is to act as if. So when you're seeing somebody like that, and you want what they've got, then write it down and put it in the form of affirmation. And you work on this as a project. Tom Watson said, the great accomplishments of man have resulted from the transmission of ideas with enthusiasm. See, a lot of people have dormant ideas. A lot of people have an imagination that just hasn't stirred. It's apathetic. A lot of people have these qualities, but there's an incrustation that needs to be scraped off. There's almost a smell of decay around some people. Have you ever been in a situation where you were happy and positive and you went into it, and it could be a social thing, maybe a party or whatever, and some people are talking negative or criticizing other people, and you walked away and kind of said, doggone it, I almost wished I wasn't there because I was feeling good before I came, but don't feel so good now. Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever made a sales call and walked into an office and you were feeling good when you came in, but there's kind of a deadness in the place? It's like an attic atmosphere. You ever been in an attic and it's got a musty smell about it? Well, a lot of people project that from their personality. And see, our body is going plus or minus all the time based on the atmosphere. It's plus or minus because of the kind of friends we have. It's plus or minus by what we put into it. What does the public generally think of when they think of enthusiasm? Artificial, a football game that's temporary, bombastic, phony, loud, boisterous. What are some of the other things that enthusiasm is labeled as in the form of a put-down? Okay. Hysteria, phony. Okay, see, now that's what the masses of people would have you believe about it to keep you in your place. Really. Isn't this true? You are looked at with a jaundiced eye, with suspect, and look at that. And even though you want to be enthusiastic about something, you tend to curb it. So you got this fight going on. Have you ever felt this in a situation where what you'd really like to do is get a little dramatic at a given point, maybe in a presentation, and you withhold it? Okay? So let's just put some of these things down so we can remember what is going on in the whole world about the Word. Think about what everybody else thinks about the Word. Think about what you believe about the Word. Think about the end result of what it will do. Relate it, assimilate it, chew on it, separate it, divide it, understand it. But to be enthusiastic about something, you have to be, number one, interested in it, and number two, you have to have knowledge about it, and three, you have to have belief. If you're interested in it, let me ask you this. I think it would be hard to be sincerely enthusiastic about something that you don't have an interest in. Would you agree or disagree with that? I mean, if you were not interested, the enthusiasm would have to be artificial or phony, wouldn't it? Okay. Also, if you had very little knowledge about it, then it couldn't be very deep, because it would be just a surface thing, a peripheral thing. But if it's something you're interested in, and something that you have knowledge about, which means it'll make you a student. It'll make you a student about people, a student about human behavior, and a student about our business, if you're going to really make the enthusiasm lasting, okay, about our particular business. And then belief, that's something that comes from down inside your gut. That's because it comes out because it can't help coming out. It's just, it emanates because it's you. Regardless of what people think, you're going to relate or react based on who you are. So it's not lung power. It's an outward reflection of an inner glow. Far more beautiful and commanding than a feature-perfect face. It spells self-confidence in letters 10 feet high. When you see an enthusiastic person come on the scene, don't you get that feeling? That's an individual that knows who they are, they know where they're going, they're confident. And you even automatically trust them. You're saying, kind of, what do you recommend? So it's a way to eradicate and erase objections by being enthusiastic. I'll absolutely guarantee you that the top producers that I know that use enthusiasm as their main tool and force and power do not get the objection that we have listed in our stall and objection procedure and teach. In other words, we teach the stall and objection procedure and overcoming that and how to close sales. The actual top 1% of all producers never heard any of those. And when we had to go ask some people that weren't doing well to give us some objections so we could write that stuff. I used to have trouble. This is true. I used to have a great deal of difficulty and a great deal of trouble in training sessions when people asked me, how do you overcome objections? And I said, well, gee, no one has ever asked me that before, and this was many years ago. And I'd say, well, I don't really know. I thought, gee, that befuddles me because I am a salesman. I have produced, relative to what other people have produced, a fairly large amount of production. I said, well, let's just wind back again. So we had kind of a run-the-reel back session in one of these sales meetings and tried to put the structure together of about 10 sales that I had made. And in none of the 10 could we think of any objections. Couldn't remember that there were any objections. And so I thought, well, gee, there's a message in that. That means that there's a customer mood that's created by somebody that's enthusiastic. Would you agree with this? There's a mood, there's kind of an atmosphere. Then I thought, doggone, we've got something missing here. Then we're wasting our time teaching the techniques here. If we could just reverse it and teach people to have the belief in their gut, get interested in it, get knowledge about it, get some belief in it, then it's going to sweep aside everything just like a vacuum. So let's go back in. I've researched the word, and I've had a lot of people send me a lot of information on the subject. It comes from enthusiasmos. That's a Greek word, and that means God within. In the Old Testament, there's a statement, the zeal of the Lord will perform it. Well, let's just translate that. That zeal means enthusiasm. So it's something that was given to each of us by our Creator. No more to one than the other. And if we do not have it, it's because we blocked it. Enthusiasm emanates from the man himself. Enthusiasm, and let's get some two-word deals if you want to make some notes here. And just put down the two key words and remember it. Enthusiasm is, quote, emotion management. And this means the ability to control the emotional climate or temperature of any situation you're in. Now let's translate that into a sales situation. If you're enthusiastic and you understand that that's emotion management and it will control the emotional climate, it says that you're taking a big step towards controlling the sales situation and the sales interview and the outcome of the sales interview by a reflection of who you are as a person and what you believe. Can you visualize that now? We're in somebody's office or we're in their home and we're walking in with confidence and a good self-image and something that we believe in or are interested in and have knowledge about, and we know that emotion management is taking place as a projection of my personality power. Now that's got to give you a little one-upmanship in the situation, doesn't it? I remember going to see a doctor one day. There was a friend of mine in Columbus, Georgia, and I had been selling a lot of doctors, and I was sick. And he said, "Why are you going to work today?" And I said, "It'll be the first day since I've started selling that my customers will have an even chance." Or my prospects will have a 50-50 chance. And so he was talking about why. And I said, "I don't know. When I walk in and start selling them, if they sit, I'll sell." And it's a CC, CD, and CC. Create confidence, create desire, close and collect, and go get the next one. So if you want a little shorty there to write down as an affirmation, it's CC, CD, and CC. Create confidence, create desire, close and collect, and go get the next one. And it's the belief that you're going to sweep them up into believing like you believe and wanting to have what you have because of your own enthusiasm for life, your own enthusiasm for living. Enthusiasm is the producer of confidence. It cries that I've got what it takes. And it does it in such a way that it's not braggadocious, it's not egotistical. It can be done in a very, very quiet way, but people can see it. They can feel it in your handshake. They can see it in your walk. And it shows on your face. And they can see it in your eyes. And they have confidence in you. And a lot of people say, "Well, do I have to make 2 or 3 calls?" And I say, "What for?" In fact, I try to make a lot of sales sometimes by just saying, "I'll tell you what. We haven't got a lot of time now. I know you have to go. I would like you to buy without me showing you the program just simply because you have confidence in me and my reputation. Would you do that?" Enthusiasm is the advanced man. Advanced man is your key word that paves the way for you and your ideas. So, picture the sales situation. You've got control of the emotion management in the situation. Your enthusiasm is the advanced man that's paved the way, which has set the stage, which breaks a person's preoccupation, which makes them want to listen. Are you with me? See, the average person you're talking to had a day pretty well planned, right? And he either went out plus or minus from his home that morning. As far as his total attitude, he's either an I-10 or an I-5, or he's, you know what the IR theory is, don't you? You've heard that? Yes or no? Yeah, okay. So he's maybe I-5. In other words, you don't know. Maybe his suppliers cut him off. Maybe his banker just told him no. Maybe one of his employees quit. Maybe there's a union conflict. Maybe there's something. So you don't know what state of mind that person's in. So if you've got that much going for you, you have the availability of that going for you, then I think it's imperative that you take advantage of it. You control the emotional climate, and you let your enthusiasm be the advanced man to pave the way for you and your ideas. I think it has got to be. Enthusiasm spreads like a prairie fire before the wind, which means that you will hook that person into being a center of influence, and they're going to tell others about you. Not because they want to, because they're forced to. It's a law of reciprocal. They're so happy by having done business with you, they can't wait to tell somebody else. I'll guarantee you, if you use enthusiasm in a sale and you tell somebody at 9 o'clock in the morning, whoever they have lunch with today, they're going to say, "You know, I met a fantastic person this morning. And boy, if we had all the employees in our company like that, we would have some kind of company." Yes, salesman. Oh, fantastic guy, fantastic gal. Sure, I bought. When he goes home that night, he's going to tell again about you. All based on a projection of your enthusiasm, which is because you have belief, because you have knowledge, and because it's something you're interested in. And so when you see one person outproducing another, say, "Aha! He's not doing it by himself. He's got a whole army behind him. It's an invisible army. It's an army of friends. It's an army of centers of influence. It's an army of customers. It's an army of people that believe the same as he believes and that want to help him. It's a law of reciprocal. Do a favor for somebody, and they're going to break their back trying to get even. Am I right? The more you pour out, the more you have to pour. The more you give, the more you have to give. It's an unending supply. It's a multiplier. It multiplies itself. All right, when you sell as a professional and you sell with enthusiasm, it's the same thing as doing a favor for somebody. When somebody does a beautiful job of selling you, don't you try to recommend them to people? I mean, you find yourself an ambassador for these people, and you wonder, some must be some kind of a nut. I have helped that guy sell 8 houses, or I've helped that guy sell 15 Suzuki motorcycles, or I've helped that guy get, must be the last year, 20 drapery jobs. Just because he was an enthusiastic person, did a beautiful job for me, and I was excited about it, I just love to help that kind of a guy. Don't you find yourself swept up in that? Well, other people get swept up in it too. And so let them get swept up in your enthusiasm and the projection of who you are and what you're selling. Enthusiasm is the way you squeeze the trigger on other people's emotions, where they instinctively want to help you. And squeezing the trigger, that means talking to a part of that person that no one else has ever talked to before, that part that wants to be free, that wants to come out, that wants to unfold, that wants to grow, that wants to expand, that wants to reach, that wants to open that vault. The whole world, you see, is standing before a giant vault that the Creator gave them, and their name is inscribed across the top of it, and they're struggling at the door of the thing, and they got the numbers on a card, and they're a little faded. Okay? And they're standing there. When you walk up, visualize everybody you walk up to is having to stay up all day and all night trying to fight that combination, and the lights are dim, and the card is musty, and the card is tattered and torn on the edges, and they're fighting to get in. And just by you walking in the room, you emanate a light. That's the emotion management. You've paved the way for you and your ideas. You've clarified their thinking. You have the locked-in cadence like a Marine parade, and you're communicating to that person. He can see the last numbers on there. He dials it and opens the safe, and it's the cornucopia. It's everything that he's ever dreamed he wanted, and you unlock it and set that bird free. And it's done by a projection of your enthusiasm and the product that you sell. Now, if you know that you can go around doing that, I think that's the responsibility you have, isn't it? And that's electrifying, that's exciting. That makes it dramatic to get up in the morning. And when we say that in SMI we change lives, we didn't ask some PR firm to come up with that for us, and we didn't ask some advertising agency on Madison Avenue to say something. That's down in our gut and our very soul and our very being, and that's who we are and what we are, and that's what we do. And we get letters. We got a letter. Vicki, didn't we get a letter from, what was that girl? Frederick? Was that? Oh, Esther? Okay, Esther is about, how old is she? 9 years old. And she said, "Dear Mr. Meyer," she said, "my daddy is a distributor." Just got this yesterday, and I'm going to print it. Would you like to get this letter? Print it and send it out. My daddy's a distributor. My mother's a salesman for my daddy. I'm taking the Adventures in Growth program. My little sister's taking the program too. We have a plan of action. We're excited about SMI. We thank you for having a business that changes people's lives. It changed all the lives in my family. Thank you. Kid 9 years old. A fantastic letter. Okay? I have received over 10,000 letters from people like that. Over 10,000. Okay? What's the message to me? There must be another 100,000 that didn't take the time to write a letter that the same thing happened to. And when you say, what can one person do? You can change the atmosphere in your family. You can change the tone of an association or a club or a company that you're in. You can be responsible for a reflection in a town. Let me give you an example. Successful salesmen sell themselves to other people. Isn't that what we do? We're word merchants, right? We take words and we string them together and we make sentences. And then we dramatize. When people give us an objection, we see it just like we're a painter. And we say, here's your objection. And say, well, yes, let me take a look at that in a minute. We put it on our easel and we paint it. We get back there and we put a little brush on it and say, is this what you're saying? The guy said, yes. That's the one you got the answer to. We're word merchants, right? We dramatize and we paint word pictures. Because why do we paint pictures? Because a picture tells 1,000 words. That's a Chinese proverb, and it's true. So you use a visual sales kit to be enthusiastic. You use dramatization with third parties to be enthusiastic. You use three E's. When I was a sales director and worked with you, when I was the sales director and worked with distributors personally, about all I ever worked on was the 3 E's. I figured, man, if I had that, I had it knocked. The rest would follow, as surely as day follows night. The 3 E's are excitement, emotion, and enthusiasm. I say, hey, how are your 3 E's? What do you mean? Are you excited today? Well, it's obviously, maybe yes and maybe no. How's your emotion? What are your feelings? What would you like to go out and share with somebody today? How about your enthusiasm? Look, you're the night watchman. Hey, we got you incorporated, haven't we? Isn't that a part of our deal? We got you incorporated. Go and tell you're like all the rest of people down the street, so on, so on, so on. You put the guy's name in there, and you go right through his know-how, time, etc., 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 okay? Well, think about that for a minute. You're a corporation. You're the president. You're the board of directors. You're the vice president. You're the supervisor. You're the manufacturer. You're the employee. You're the night watchman. You also clean out the place. You own all the stock. Well, let me ask you a question, because it's a good question. You need to ask yourself, would you manufacture something people did not want and could not use? Would you? Would you start a plant and go make an investment of $100,000 in a building, buy equipment, put it in there, and a guy comes along and say, hey, what are you doing there, mister? Say, well, I've got a manufacturing plant here. I'm going to be manufacturing things. What is it? Well, it's a whatchamadidget widget. Well, is there a market for those? No, there isn't a market for those. Nobody in the world could use these. Well, I hadn't thought about that. I'll probably go broke, won't I? Well, isn't that descriptive of what most people put out when you have a negative thought or when you lack enthusiasm, isn't it? Just think about that every time when you get up in the morning and say, well, I'm going to open up my manufacturing plant today. You know, right when you look in the mirror, say, hey, manufacturing plant, what are you going to manufacture today? Pluses or minuses? Negatives or positives? Ups or downs? Winner stuff or loser stuff? Hey, Mr. Manufacturer. Hey, you incorporated. Hey, Paul J. Meyer, what are you going to tell them today? Think about that next time you make a call. Every individual has the capability of becoming an outstanding salesperson. All you have to do is see yourself as one. This seeing himself, or seeing yourself, you've heard me say it, seeing is believing, and you've heard that statement before. That's original with me. Seeing is visualizing. Most people would say, I'll believe it when I see it. Now, how many people live their life that way? I'll believe it when I see it. How many people do you know live their life that way? Well, what would the opposite of that be? When I believe it, I'll see it. So you magnetize the condition you seek. That's the law of attraction. Birds of a feather flock together. Birds of a feather meaning thought. A negative thought attracts a negative thought. And that attracts a negative reality in your life. A positive thought attracts a positive. The same way. How many of you have listened to our tape on As a Man Thinketh? Raise your hand. How many of you haven't? Those of you that haven't, you need to get it. William James said our mind is like a garden. And if we plant weed thoughts, we will have a cluttered and weed life. And if we plant them in rows and plant positive thoughts, then we're going to have a beautiful garden. And that's going to be our life. That's a projection that comes from us. And when you see somebody that's not making sales and they say, well, it's because of the economy, it's because of Nixon, it's because of the price of gold, it's because stocks are down, it's because interest has gone up, it's because money's tight, it's because real estate starts are going slow, it's because of my town, it's because of my wife, it's because of my family, it's because of my sales record, it's because of SMI, damn it, it's Paul Meyer's fault. Now, that's exactly the way it comes. I see that old crooked path going around there, and then finally it comes and they dump it in my lap. And so I always write back and say, go fly a kite. Be adult. Accept personal responsibility for your own life. Make a commitment. Get in this business or get out of this business. Don't sit on the fence and find excuses and procrastinate. Develop a do-it-now attitude. And if you want to develop a do-it-now attitude, then become an alive person, become an enthusiastic person. Start believing in the life you're going to have this afternoon and tomorrow and next week, and you will see it. I had a goal to be a master salesman when I was 16. And I believed it with every heart of my being. I was willing to crawl over broken glass, live in a tent, pay any kind of price, work for free. And then luckily, ASK was put into my life at a very young age. Ask, seek, and knock, and you can find out anything. So ask and seek and knock. Don't hold back. Speak up. Ask questions. Investigate. Explore. Stop drawing conclusions or opinions about people or things or what you perceive they believe or think. And go unwrap it. Take the covers off. Get the shovel and dig it up. Find out what's really there. Investigate. I tell you what you'd find out. It is amazing what's around the next corner. A beautiful friend, a fantastic idea, an invention, an A that connects with a B that you've been holding for a long time. And then everybody's going to turn around and say, hey, she's lucky. He's lucky. And it's not that at all. It's perceive and relate and think and use the universe and believe what we have in our lesson number 1 of the DPM, that it is an abundant world. And there is a limitless supply. And then you start having a self-fulfilling prophecy and you stop seeing people as they are now and you start seeing them as how they can become. Why? Because this very morning I looked in a mirror and I saw myself not as I am now, but as how I can become if I use my God-given potential. And I say, my life is a mold. Just a mold. And with that mold, I'm going to pour into it some good thoughts today. And I'm going to make some friends today. And I'm going to be enthusiastic today. Because I know when they crack the shell off of it, it's going to be the cumulative collection of what I eat and what I think and who my friends are. And then with that is my factory. That's what I'm going to produce with my life. With that is my personality. That's what I'm going to attract in the way of money. There isn't one person that is inventive and another one not. There isn't one person that has an imagination and another one that's not. There isn't one person that can have more perception or see more than somebody else. It's the fact that the rest of us have blocked it out. We've resisted. The force that we have control over, we have the power of choice. Boy, thank God for that. Because no matter how I screwed up yesterday, I've got the choice to do right today. I may have made all the mistakes in the world yesterday, but today I've got a choice. I can say, well, just because I did that yesterday, I don't need to do that today. Today I can be positive. Today I can be a magnet. Today I can relate. Today I can communicate. Today I can magnetize. I can change my life today by my power of choice. My Creator said I could. I'll tell you what, that gets you kind of excited. William James said, when you seek a value, act as if. If you don't have it today, don't feel bad because we've been scripted not to have it. They beat it out of us, didn't they, as kids? The program, the computer, Mama punched it, our father punched it, our preacher punched it, our teacher punched it. And we took our IBM card, all mutilated, tattered, and torn, and at 21 we stick it in our head, and that's who we are. Now, I don't mind that all those people contributed to me, but I wish they had gotten together and had a meeting in advance and organized it. So I wouldn't be all screwed up when I got to be 21. Huh? How about that? Isn't that the way it happened? Okay, if that's the way it happened, why don't we, instead of living and droning on and on and on and on, carrying that load and taking Alka-Seltzer and Digel and Melanta and all that other garbage and being sick and having stiff necks and wearing braces and collars and having backaches, instead of just beating ourselves to death, why don't we say, aha, I have the power of choice. And I can ask, I can think, my gosh, this thing's up here moving. I think of all kinds of these things. Thoreau said we all marched to a different drummer, didn't we? Da-da-da-da. Hey, do you know what song I'm thinking of right now? See, you don't know. I'm thinking of a song right now. So you can't look at another person and hear the tune. How many of you like the tune that comes from the Bridge on the River Kwai? Remember that? That's what I was thinking of. Not a single one of you caught it. You missed it. Well, you can't look at another person and tell what tune is there. You can't tell also if there's not a tune. You can't tell if they hurt. I'll tell you what you can do. You can control the emotion management. And if you're enthusiastic, you can project something. It's unspoken. It doesn't have to be spelled out. And it's got more power than anything in the world. And that's enthusiasm. Years ago, I remember reading of medicine men in a primitive tribe say that they had the ability to transmit life's force from one to another. And I thought, well, what are they really saying? What do those words mean? And what they're talking about is being a human transmitter. And I thought, boy, that's the most beautiful thing for a salesman to use to make an affirmation. So why don't you write down an affirmation and put it on your mirror and put it in your car, put it in your briefcase and say, I am a human transmitter. I'm going to withhold judgment. I'm going to be a good listener. My words, my tones, and my actions are going to stop contradicting each other. I'm going to start being understood. I'm going to stop being misunderstood. People are going to seek me out and ask my advice. I'm going to withhold judgment. I'm going to make a friend. I'm going to get some customers today. They're going to buy. The world's my oyster. Every time I go into a sales call, I visualize a gold carpet rolled out in front of me, 2 trumpeters at the door, waiting for me, and the guy sitting behind his desk says, Mr. Meyer, I have been waiting with open arms for you and your message all of my life. Now, intellectually, I know there's a possibility that a part of that's not true. Intellectually. But I'll tell you what, emotionally, and from an exciting way and an enthusiastic way, I see that gold carpet, and I see those 2 guys there with the horn, and I see that guy with his open arms, and we get down and we communicate. And I talk to a part of that person that no one else has ever talked to before, that wants to be free, that wants to come out. And you know what he ends up saying? What do you recommend? And I say, you're ahead of me. Just a minute. But, you insist. Why be fatigued? Why wear yourself out? Somebody asked me one time, say, aren't you tired making all those sales? I mean, don't you get completely drained and fatigued? I say, no, I get refreshed and charged. I mean, 1 begets 2, and 2 and 2 is 4, and 4 and 4 is 8, and 8 and 8 is 16, and 16 and 16 are 32, and 64, and 128, and 256, and 512, and 1,024, and then all of a sudden it's in the bank! $1 million. And I thought, gee, just the other day, I started with 1. Man, it's a great world. And I thought, well, where did it come from? And I thought, well, it was just flowing by. It's in the cosmos. It's for me, and it's for you. And so I can share it with you. I can give it away. And I thought, well, if I used it up, and I thought, no, I've got more myself. You know what they say about bass? I had a friend fishing one time, and he said, if the big bass don't eat the little bass, we'll be up our ass in bass. Okay. It flipped me out. It was one of the funniest lines I ever heard in my life. I thought, that's unbelievable. And I said, that's the best visualization I can use to give somebody, that they propagate. There's millions of fish, have more fish and more fish. And if they don't start eating the fish, there's not even going to be any water left. We'll see a mile-high pile of bass out here in the lake. All I'm doing is trying to give you a picture. All right, does that give you a little bit of a picture? I don't know if you're having as much fun as I am, but boy, this is fun. This is fun. You have the power to inspire another person when you learn to turn on. You got a switch, turn it on. I read a book one time, Turn on the Green Lights in Your Life. I don't even think they print it anymore. And that's all the guy was talking about, turn on the green light. You know, shut off the stoplight, turn on the green light. It's a power of choice. You can do it every morning. You have a higher degree of aliveness. You have more ability to penetrate, to attract, to magnetize. What would happen if you used enthusiasm with manpower building? What would happen if you used enthusiasm? See, it doesn't just pay off in making the sale. It pays off every day, everywhere you go. We've got to ask the question now, can you do without enthusiasm? Can you do without enthusiasm? Why, sure you can. I'll give you an example. You can do without salt on the table. Can you? Sure you can. I know a lot of people can't take salt. You can do without a smile from a child. You can do without a kiss from a loved one. You can do without music. You can do without the sun. You can do without the rain. You can do without the stars. You can do without a purpose in life. And this is what we mean, that without enthusiasm, man is but a husk of his former self. When you see a person without enthusiasm, you see only vegetation. People are in a rut, and a rut is a grave with the ends kicked out. That's exactly what it is. Isn't it? A rut is a grave with the ends kicked out. And a person without enthusiasm is in a rut. And all they can see at the end of the rut is a gravestone. Just look down the road, put yourself in a rut. Visualize this. Most people are walking along, and they're all in ruts of some kind or another because we've all been conditioned or shaped. Some people, you see them just from their head up, and you see them moving along. And you look over there, and there's a group of them moving along, and you see just their hair. There's the gray hair, and there's the yellow one. You only see their hair because they're in a rut. Every once in a while, you see somebody that can see a little bit. You got my picture? Am I painting a word picture here for you? Every once in a while, you see somebody with a pretty good self-image, half of them, like this, but still in the rut. He still has to walk just like they did in the fighting trenches. He's still in the trenches, and he's still having to zigzag in there, still being controlled like a marionette on somebody else's stage or a yo-yo on somebody else's string, still a bird in somebody else's cage, still a wooden dummy, still letting society shout like a ventriloquist and say, stand up, sit down, turn to the right, go to the left. Speak. Don't talk so loud. Don't be enthusiastic. Wear this, wear that. Wear them short, wear them long. Use a red one, use a black one. Do you ever feel like you've been made into a dummy? Plasticized? Have you? That what they've done is extrapolated and taken away from you your enthusiasm by a series of conditioning. And all you have to do to get it back is say, today I make the choice that I'm going to get it back, extrapolate that formula, use affirmations, and you got it back. There is absolutely nothing as effective in selling as enthusiastic confidence. It is absolutely supreme. The one predominant characteristic of all the highly successful people I've ever seen, ever associated with, ever read about, or have ever studied, or have ever had colleagues or associates ever study or find out about. The one predominant characteristic, the one common denominator, is enthusiastic confidence. And translated, that means a healthy self-image. That's a guy that knows where he stands, knows where he's going, is motivated by the end result. Has a picture of it, believes it, and because he believes it, sees it. And when seeing it, begins to plan for it, and when planning for it, not looking at the life through rose-colored glasses, but in reality knowing that there may be rain today, there may be sunshine, there may be an objection, but he's motivated by the end result. Where failure behavior is motivated by is task-oriented, non-accountability, blames other people for what happens to him. Okay. Now, let's translate this into a sales situation and what's going on psychologically inside that person's mind when you use enthusiasm. Here's why it pays you to turn on in a sales situation. Number one, it convinces, without explanation, that you are happy and prosperous in what you're doing. Let's examine that. Do you want to take that apart, or do you accept it, or do you agree or disagree with it? It convinces that prospect instantaneously, because of emotion management and because of the advanced man, just while you walking on the scene, or what his friend said about your coming, your handshake, your look in your eye, or the projection of your personality, or the beginning of your presentation, breaks his occupation, makes him want to listen. But number one, it convinces him, without your explaining, that you're happy and prosperous in what you're doing. It radiates. It comes out because it can't help coming out. Guy's unconscious mind, wired into his protective device, which people have just like an animal, just like a bell with a crack in it, or a chameleon. An animal changes colors in the woods to protect himself. People have that same protective device to protect themselves against somebody that wants to take something from them, because they were educated to hang on to their money, get a bargain, be sure people treat you fair. Isn't this on everybody's script? So, number one, it convinces him that, without explanation, that you are happy and prosperous in what you're doing. You buy? All right. Second, I think this is worldwide. Everybody likes to do business with a winner. I would prefer to have my heart operated on by a known successful heart surgeon. I mean, given a choice as to somebody that just entered medical school. And it's not that I lack confidence in one or the other. It's just that I like to do business with a winner. And I've checked that out and found other people would rather have their heart operated on by a successful, proven, known surgeon than by somebody who just entered medical school. So I thought, well, gee, this is kind of universal. So I checked around on a lot of other things. I would like to buy my life insurance from somebody that's successful. I would like to have my car repaired by a mechanic that has a reputation for doing a good job, etc., etc., etc. Agreed? Okay. Third thing that happens psychologically, he says, that's going on here. That's the computer up here. And the message tells him that, hey, I too will be happy and prosperous. I will have more aliveness. I will be a better person if I do business with this man. Therefore, I'll buy. And all this goes on psychologically between salesman and prospect. Number one, he senses and sees you're happy and prosperous in your business. Number two, everybody likes to do business with a winner. Number three, he said, I'm going to get a piece of the action. Right? You buy that? Have you been party to that on either side and experienced it? Have you experienced that as a client or a customer somewhere? Have you? I mean, who wants to go to a lawyer that lost the last 17 cases? I mean, think about it for a minute. You know what I did when we picked out a law firm in town here? I checked them all out. I said, who is the absolute best? Who's the absolute best? And so they named several. And I said, then answer my question. Who's got the best win-loss record? Then I gave them several examples. And then narrowed down to the firm that we have. So we have a trend. We have tradition. They have image. Okay, when they go in the courtroom, there's a projection and an aura that takes place because of who they are that everybody accepts. I mean, just almost carte blanche. They got the fastest gun in the West, and they haven't had to draw it in 10 years. I mean, nobody even knows. They just say, yeah, I heard about them. They must, yeah, I don't want to tangle with them. They must have the fastest gun. That's what I heard. That's what everybody said they had. My point is, when you get that good selling, and you use your enthusiasm to get that good, you don't have to use the objections anymore. You don't have to prove anything anymore. You don't have to draw. I mean, what they visualize, instead of seeing you there with one gun, they visualize a whole string across here of bullets, a whole string across here, and a rifle across the back, and a pistol on each side, and they have no arms. Can you see that picture? And they say, well, I wouldn't have a chance. And besides, maybe if I join him, that would be better than taking opposition. I'm just telling you fantasies that are imagined or go on unconsciously between salesman and customer. There's got to be something that goes on that we can't explain or that hadn't been written in all the sales training books, because you can't show me a corollary whether a guy's educated or uneducated, whether he can market or sell, or fat or thin, tall or short, young or old. You show me a common denominator or a corollary other than what I'm saying, enthusiastic confidence, and I'm open for it. I'd like to discuss it, debate it, get informed, and get educated and add it to what I already know. But I'm just saying that it has some power that I have never seen equaled in a situation. So, if you're going to be a great salesman, then you first must consider yourself a human transmitter. And what do you transmit? Enthusiastic confidence. I am a human transmitter. I transmit enthusiastic confidence. Enthusiasm gives evidence that you're sure of yourself and what you are doing. So we're just saying the same message another way. It helps the prospect to feel secure. He wants to rely on you. People want services. People want to be sold. People are working on jobs, making money, so they can have security, so they can buy things, so they can fill their needs. Their security needs, their safety needs, all of their psychological needs. And they're out here working. And so they want to be sold. They would like so desperately not to need a Better Business Bureau, not to need all of these other protective deals. They would like to open their hearts and trust somebody that's honest, that they can have confidence in. People would like to have a doctor they can rely on, they can confide in. Isn't this true? People are desperate for communication with other people. They're desperate for affection. They're desperate for attention. And you can fill such a fantastic need as a salesperson armed with the product we have with SMI. People will just open up and embrace you. They'll chase you down the rest of their lives trying to help you. Enthusiastic confidence. They want to rely on you. I've read everything I think I could get my hands on about sports heroes. Everything about the Olympics people for years back. There are 357 professional teams in the United States of one kind or another. Hockey, football, baseball, tennis, football, you name it. There's only a slight edge difference between the star ball player and the person that comes in second. A slight edge. And now they have joined the behavioral scientists and the psychologists and people that know something about attitude in this one thing. The one difference, that slight edge. Hey, they say the top 50 golfers on any given day, one can hit it as good as another. Did you know that? On any given day, one of the top tennis players can play as good as the next. And it becomes an attitudinal game and a self-image projection game and aliveness and an enthusiasm game. All right, that slight edge in a sales situation presents, you know what a chasm is? You know what two mountains are? A chasm is a void between two mountains. This is a picture again. And here you are over here, the salesman, and here's the prospect over here. And you're going through your presentation, and it looks like there's no way that you're going to be able to send the radio waves across there. It doesn't look like you'll be able to project it clear across, and it's way over there, and you're using a megaphone. This program will be great for you! Great for you! Great for you! How'd I do on the echo there? Okay. All right, if you want to close that chasm, narrow that down where you just simply walk across and get on his side. Lincoln said if you want to win a man to your cause, first convince him you're his true friend. That's a drop of honey that will outweigh all logic and all reason. Okay? I carried that as a quote in my pocket from the time I was 16, I guess, till I was 26. And I used to be outside somebody's door, and I'd say, now, if I want to sell him, I've got to convince him I'm his friend. If I'm going to do that, that means I must have to understand him. If I'm going to do that, I must have to get on his side of the situation. And empathy is the imaginative projection of yourself in the other person's shoes. So I'm going to have to do that. And then I'm going to have to give him some of me, so that he's not only buying an SMI program, he's going to buy a piece of me. And I thought, well, how many pieces have I got to spare? And then when I understand that I can give and give and give and it multiplies, this thing gets narrower and narrower. And you just walk across. Or he says, what do you recommend? You put the megaphone down then, you're sitting over on his side of the table, and you say, well, for starters, I would think this would be best for you right here. Okay. And then he'll even ask, which one do you think I ought to take next? How many other people should we add to the program? That's what happens when you're a professional, and it all begins with enthusiastic confidence. It'll bridge the widest chasm known. He didn't raise any objections, did he? They're not going to give you any objections when you use enthusiastic confidence. Would you like some over-dramatized illustrations to make my point? Would you like a couple? Okay. I was a sales manager for a life insurance company in Miami, Florida one time, and I got a phone call. I'm sitting at my desk and I'm holding the phone, and the guy said, are you the sales manager? And I said, yes. And he said, I'm not angry. I'm not mad. I want you to know that. It was kind of like up front, so I wouldn't hang up. And he said, I wonder, there was a guy that I bought some, he started stuttering. And I said, hey, be comfortable. What's your name? He gave me his name. Owned a hardware store in Fort Lauderdale. What's your address? What's your phone number? Because I was afraid the guy may have some kind of mental condition here and I want to get back to him. So he's talking to me, and he said that there was a guy well, what it really was, a guy came in here the other day, and I gave him $900 for one of your contracts, and I wonder if you'd mind sending somebody by to explain to me what I bought. And I said, well, why? He said, easy. I said, now why would you buy something from somebody that you didn't know what you were buying? And then back through the phone came this message. Oh, and he said, you didn't see him walk in my door. And he said, you didn't hear him talk. And he said, I just knew that he had something that I had to have. He said, I told him, I don't care what it is, I'm going to buy it. I'll get the details later. Okay. So that actually happened. That's a true story. So what are we saying? We must first create a state of mind, a customer mood that's favorable to us and our idea. People buy personalities and ideas. They do not buy things. They do not buy corporations. They buy personalities and ideas. They don't buy tapes and books and binders and boxes. Somebody once said, what? There were 7 blank cassette cartridges sold in the United States last year for every living human being. People are not interested in buying that. They're interested in buying an idea. Only 2 reasons anybody will do anything: gain a benefit or avoid a loss. Color it any way you want to. Discuss it up and down. Get all the psychologists in the world in the room. They're going to net it out to that. Gain a benefit or avoid a loss. Keep from losing something. Fill the needs I've got. That's what they're all out there screaming. Enthusiastic confidence on your part will get it done. We must become human transmitters and fill the room, the prospect arena, with an emotion climate that will result in a positive decision from the prospect. That's psychologically what's taken place between the salesman and the prospect. Again, if you're not as enthusiastic as you would like to be, don't feel bad about it. It's because of the tapes. The education system erased it. Without enthusiasm, you have mediocrity. Mediocrity creates boredom. Boredom blocks enthusiasm. Boredom leads to apathy. Apathy says, why bother? You want to know, Jim, how to get more calls? Add enthusiastic confidence. The reason for call reluctance is we're afraid that people are going to strike back where it hurts us most. That's our phony pride, our ego, our desire to be appreciated, to be accepted, to be wanted, to be loved. Isn't that true? I might get hurt. I might let my role relationship damage who I am as a person, so I'm not going to risk anything in my role relationship. I'm going to keep a facade, an arm, or a mask. I don't want anybody getting close to me. The enthusiasm splits that veil and goes right in. Doesn't it? It just... and they're all ready right to buy. Then, when they don't bother anymore and you have apathy, then it leads to laziness. And how do you unlock it? How do we unlock it? Well, we need to unlock it and we need to unblock it. Okay? Now, here's where I did it. The first time, I don't know how old I was, I don't remember, but one of the first things that I can remember my mother ever saying to me is that the kingdom of God is within you. That's one of the first things I can go back and say. If you remember your mother tell me something she said, and that's the first thing I can remember. And so I asked her to translate that for me. She said this was God's universe, and this abundance is yours if you want it. And I said, how about the trees? They're yours if you want them. They don't belong to anybody up and down the street. The birds that sing are yours. The stars are yours. I go out in my backyard every once in a while. I look at my stars. There's no deed on it, is there? It all belongs to you if you want it. And the thing that can unblock it is this enthusiasm. Clean out the mud and the muck of past negative thinking. And then the spirit of enthusiasm is going to flow through you just as surely as it flows through anyone that's ever accepted or done the same thing. The enthusiasts aren't necessarily the most cultured people in the world. That's what we talked about, sophisticated, educated. They're not the most sophisticated, but they're the only ones that make history. Think back. Go all the way back through and show me anywhere in the world, and show me in any history book where somebody made history that wasn't an enthusiast about who they were or what they were doing, whether it's Immanuel Kant or whether it's Einstein or whether it's Thomas Paine or Washington, John Kennedy. You name anybody that wasn't an enthusiast about what he was doing. You can't do it, can you? A sculptor, a painter, a songwriter, they were enthusiastic about what they're doing. They had knowledge about it, they believed in it, and they were interested in it. One thing you might do in a dramatized way is just break your inhibitor. Just start practicing around the house. If you want to sing, sing. If you want to bust out, bust out. If you want to be expressive, be expressive. And have some fun in your next sale. We're supposed to have fun in our business. Selling is supposed to be exciting, dramatizing, colorful, exhilarating. You're supposed to not get worn out. You're supposed to get uplifted. The whole point is this. If you want to be negative, tell me how to act if I want to be negative. Why not just act negative? A lot of people do it. If you want to be happy, how do you suggest I act? If you want to be sick, how should I act? Sick. If you want to be successful, how do you act? And if you want to be enthusiastic, how do you act? Enthusiasm has that power to melt away all negative thinking. You want to write something down, write this down. No man can deliver the good if his heart is heavier than the load. What are you carrying around inside? What do you want to dump out? What would you like to unload? Go talk to somebody about it. Get a release. I look at that new baby we have and I think, what a beautiful opportunity to share this at an early age with a little baby girl. And I watched her be born. I had a big argument with the doctor. And he said, well, we don't do that here. And I said, I don't care. I want to anyway. He says, it's not our policy. I said, change the policy. He said, you're very persistent. And I said, you're getting the message. What do we have to do to get it done? Then he started telling me all the negatives. I would have to wear the mask and the whole, put on the gloves and the uniform. I said, fine, where do I meet you? He said, well, okay then. And so I watched that kid be born. I told my wife, I said, this is better than the late movie. They were fixing to put her out, you know, and I said, don't let them put you out. Stay awake. We can talk. And so we were talking. I said, you're not going to believe this. And it's a miracle. And I thought, well, I like to see miracles. I like to have new experiences. I like to have new joys, new vitality, new insights. You want something else to put down? You can never reflect more than you are. The thoughts you think, the acts you perform to increase or decrease the flow of enthusiasm from you. Means, man, you got to get it from the inside. You got to start believing. It starts with an attitude. A couple more and we'll shut off. I see the clock's running out. Enthusiasm is reason that has gone completely mad to achieve a definite objective. It's the logic and reasoning we were scripted with that has gone crazy, loony mad to achieve a definite objective. Enthusiasm is the thrill of your voice that sways the wills of others into harmony with your own. Enthusiasm takes a dull task, and because you're handling that task, turns it into a delightful deed. Enthusiasm is the X-ray of the soul that reveals the invisible. Hey, if that's true, translate that to a sale and look at the tool you got. You're walking in there with an X-ray machine, and you see all the way through that guy. Now, you've been the advanced man, you've controlled the emotional management, and now I'm telling you, you can look inside of them. And it'll reveal what they're thinking. You can read their very thoughts because you're non-judgmental. You're a good listener, sensitive, perceptive, inventive, alive, alert, glowing, magnetizing, radiant, powerful, forceful, moving ahead. So it's nice that we've got something nice for them. It's nice that we're honest. It's nice that we got something good to sell. And the power works the same way for something wrong, something destructive, something that can destroy. We tend to achieve goals commensurate with our self-image, self-talk, and self-suggestion. We tend to achieve and have for our life what emanates from us based on our self-talk, self-suggestion, self-affirmation, and our image. Okay? So positive affirmations then produce positive expectation. Take the attitude, I expect it to happen. Believe you can do it, and then make a commitment that you're going to pay whatever price you have to pay to get it done. Okay? And remember this, that beginning is 90%. If you begin, it's 90% done. And then put this down. Don't quit, because 90% of all failure comes from quitting. So you can add, if you want a formula to eliminate 90% of all the failures you ever have all the rest of your life, just say, I'm going to begin today, and I'm not going to quit. And you wiped out most of the obstacles that breed in fear, worry, indecision, and negative thinking. Enthusiasm is the greatest one-word slogan for living that's ever been devised. The man who believes enthusiasm is never content with things as they are. And they just walk around wanting to improve everything because they know that where two blades of grass, our Creator said this, where two blades of grass grow, the 4 will grow, 8 will grow, 16 will grow, 32 will grow, 64 will grow, 128 will grow, 256, 512, 1,024. Either dollars, people, or ideas. And did I use up anything? No, it's like the bass. You got to give them away. You got to get rid of them, or the bass will be stacked a mile high. And then I'd like to close with a question. Can an egg fly? Okay, yes. If it breaks out of its shell and uses the wings the Creator gave it. We all have wings that are dormant, that have atrophied, that have rusted from lack of use. But if we believe, then gain knowledge, and then develop interest, then we too can fly like no one else has ever flown before. We will make Jonathan Livingston Seagull look pale. It's our inheritance. Let's claim it. Thank you.